Hello everyone, welcome to BEC Talks. My name is Prince Khan, and BEC Talks is a podcast where we will explore different facets of entrepreneurship and small business. If you have a business and you're looking to accelerate or thinking about starting your own entrepreneurship journey, come join us at 41 George Street South at Brampton Entrepreneur Centre, or visit us at www.brampton.ca/BEC for more amazing resources. Today we have a very fantastic topic and a fantastic speaker, if I might add. Today we're being joined by Kunal Bajaj, the founder and CEO of Canready. And what we're going to be discussing today is how to build your brand internationally. And Kunal is a serial expert in this. He's been in many different roles in the past. So I'm very excited to hear about his journey and tell us all about how do we really build an international brand as a small business. So Kunal, welcome to the podcast. Really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Prince. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to. And, when I first learned about you a couple of years back, I was like, this is the person I want to get to know, mainly because of your experiences in international trade and all the contacts that you have, of course, abroad as well, which is a great asset to any small business organization. So with that said, Kunal, we'll start off by, give us an introduction. Where did you start and where are you today, and what is your experience in international trade?
Oh, fantastic. Just sharing a bit about myself. Born and brought up in Bombay. I think I pretty much was someone who was at the right place at the right time, right. And made use of opportunities. Have a career that spans consulting. Large part of it has been in media and some bit in banking. That said, I have developed a bit of a forte where we help businesses scale in international markets, and I'm talking about in revenue as well as helping them build their brand. During my time with CNN International and Bloomberg, where I spent a great chunk of my career, we helped international businesses build international brands. Now, it meant understanding, consumers in different parts of the world, understanding what makes them tick, understanding what their habits are, and finding creative ways and means of engaging with them. So it's been a beautiful career spanning 20 odd years. I think it was like 5 odd years ago where I took a step back and said I want to set up my own business. Mm-hmm. So it's been a great journey. We help, as I mentioned, help businesses scale their revenue. So we have international business partners such as NBC Universal, Euronews, South China Morning Post, which is an Alibaba company, and many more. And we also, work with businesses where we help them, on around 1-year projects, and where we come on board as like a fractional CMO and help them build their brand in international markets. It's been a fun ride, and we continue doing good.
Yeah, they're large companies, right? And you've obviously been in this space for many, many years. So kudos to you and being able to build this and starting fresh all over again as an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. It's been a ride. It's been great. And, I wouldn't... there's no looking back. I'm just glad that we're able to work with good people and, build value.
So you've been there. You've been to the global market. So how have sort of those consumer expectations changed with globalization in recent years, and how are brands adapting to these changes?
I think this question could take a couple of hours, but I'll try my best to,
30 seconds.
30 seconds, all right. I think what's been great is consumers today, and rightly so, have become more demanding. They want things quicker. They want things, giving them great convenience, but they also want choice, right? They want things and they're ready to pay a right price for quality. So, when you give customers that, a lot of that, that power rests with consumers today. Right. So, while our listeners perhaps can't see this, I'm wearing a pair of glasses. I kind of got old. I was told to wear bifocals, right? So if I may, my insurance kind of ran out one particular year. And I didn't want to pay around $450 for a pair of bifocals. So I Googled, where can I pick up a good pair of glasses? Can I get something online? And I got something shipped to my doorstep, all right? All packaged with my prescription, everything custom built for me within a week, for $75.
Wow.
Yeah, and the company is Lenskart from India. So it shipped internationally to me, and all I did was Google, where can I get a cheap pair of glasses? Wow. And just see the opportunity what you have. I needed something quick enough. I didn't need it the next day, but I got it delivered to my doorstep exactly the way I wanted it.
Amazing. So that's a good opportunity for people who need glasses. Look international.
Yeah, I'm sorry to others, but yeah, that's what I got. I did go buy a better pair once, the insurance kicked in.
It's okay. For temporary purposes, you got what you needed
It
to get
worked.
done.
It's a good fix.
So it's good to see that like brands are really adapting around the world. There's lots of opportunities. It's not just the localization of the companies that are here, but you can also see that, there's different brands around the world that you can take advantage of. So what are some of the key steps to build a trusting brand and credibility in terms of a business internationally? So you've been there, you've kind of done the marketing aspect of it. So how does a brand really build itself internationally?
Great. I think the first step is really understanding the kind of market you're looking to enter, and understanding the consumer there. If you look at a brand like Louis Vuitton, LVMH, right? They get 6% of their global revenue in France, just 6%.
Wow.
So you're talking about 94% of their revenue comes from markets other than France, right? But I have yet to see LVMH adapting or changing their logo or doing something different in an international market. If you walk into their stores, it's the brand, it's the power of that brand that's recognized, and people pay a hefty premium for it. You're getting top-notch quality, but yes, you're carrying an LVMH bag. There is, paying for that premium, right? So there is that aspect of it. On the flip side, you look at the way McDonald's has done it. You get the filet of fish burger, and they straddle both, right? They do customize a great deal because they understand what makes audiences tick. So at the start of it, do your research, get to know those audiences in international markets, see where perhaps you can take your product and go, or maybe even you need to differentiate your product a bit. Go with another brand. I can cite another example for that matter, right? Kellogg's, when another, I give examples of different parts of the world, particularly because I do feel there's great opportunity there. But when Kellogg's entered India, for that matter, right, recognizing that, Indians, they will change the way perhaps Indians consume breakfast, right? So they'll change their breakfast habits, and they'll make them eat cereal. 10 odd years, not a lot of traction, sales which are negligible, and you're talking about the world's most populated, country right now, right? And they didn't do much with it, except they offered, your cornflakes and other kinds of cereal, which the consumers didn't take to. What did they do? They changed it, right? They pivoted, as the cliche now, and they offered something called upma. They packaged it, and what happens to sales? It shoots up. They're doing great. So suddenly, if you look at it, what caused that? It's understanding your consumer. It's very difficult to make consumers change, right? What you can do is you can perhaps tweak your product a bit, and then find those markets where you can hit it out of the park.
Right, and upma was, I'm guessing, just another word for something.
It's a breakfast cereal that's consumed. It's a staple for I can't even count the number of Indian households. So it's a staggering number. So you give people what they're kind of used to, package it well, and they will pay a premium for it if it's good quality.
Use their language, right? And when you use their language and they understand it, then the idea becomes a little bit more solidified in their mind.
I'm glad you brought up language, Prince, because this is something where, if I may, it's instinctive for brands to think if I go internationally, if I take my brand international, if I want to kind of target audiences, language is a key barrier. Yes, it is, no question about it. And you have tools like Google Translate, et cetera, et cetera. You can, you can literally translate what you're saying from English to another language, and here you go. It can get you by, but what would enable brands to succeed today is if they kind of take a step back just a little bit and really understand culture. It's understanding of, your audiences. What do they really like? What are their habits? What's their day-to-day like? Or what's their situation with their families? What is work culture like? What are their frustrations? What makes them happy? And working with all of that, crafting your product into their day-to-day, if need be, into their day-to-day, and they would accept you. The one example, that I'd love to give is Kit Kat and what they did in Japan. Yeah. God, you could write a book on it, and I'm sure there must be books on it, because it's beautiful what they've done. When I ask, some of my students when I do teach a bit, that how many flavors of Kit Kat do they know of? One, two, three. Max I've heard is five sometimes.
Yeah.
But you'll be surprised to know there are over 300 flavors of Kit Kat being sold in Japan.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right? It's beautiful to see what they've achieved, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that they have all of them available in a vending machine. Some of them are limited edition runs. You could pick it up on vending machines. They create it at certain times of the year. It's actually a customary gift to in fact give.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Right? So just think about how they've kind of just got into that entire culture, right? I think it's a beautiful example and something that we should aspire for.
We should. And, that leads to my next question about positioning, differentiation, and how do you really compete against a local market? Because Kit Kat obviously is a prime example of differentiation and understanding the needs of their segments. But they have lots of other competitors, I'm sure, in their market as well. So how do you kind of come in as the Kit Kat and say, yes, we're going to dominate this market and we know exactly what we need to be offering our consumers? How do you get to that level?
I think perhaps this is a really cool question, not really easy to answer.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the biggest of companies entering international markets and, they're floundering.
Yeah.
Target entered Canada and over a decade ago.
Oh, yeah.
And, I love going to Target, but it was not Target which came here. Even though I didn't visit it at that time, I wasn't here, but I've heard stories,
Yeah.
How do you kind of create that point of distinction? It's knowing what the consumers really want. It's about that, right? If consumers want what they see internationally, if they aspire to hold that LVMH bag, then you give them an LVMH bag. You don't really need to do much, but pretty much just bring it in there and you've got it. They already have that aspirational value and that allure for your brand, right?
Yes.
So it's pretty much easy that you're kind of giving them what they want, right? You want to safeguard that premiumness, that brand value, and as long as you can give them that, that's great. Rolex, when they go to international markets, you're not just walking to a store and saying, "Hey, I want that watch," right? You're almost selling it to them. That can I please do this, that, and the like, right? That said, how do you create that point of distinction? It's understanding that customer palette. It's can you actually give them something that's unique, right? When McDonald's came to India, all right, veg burgers, because quite a few consumers need veg, right? If you look at China as a market, I read an article in Bloomberg recently. The article stated, and I'm sorry I can't quote it verbatim, that $150 Lululemon yoga pants are a huge hit in slowing down China. It's a headline on Bloomberg. Now think about it. They are flocking to Lululemon because it's a brand. It's doing great. Canada Goose does great in China, so I've heard. And it's something which, I just took a step back at the moment because, see, you're telling me it's a slowing down market, but people are still shelling out $150 for yoga pants. I think Lululemon has done great as to create a point of distinction.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do much, right? But it's perhaps that allure in certain markets around the world that automatically people look at it and say it's an aspirational value of buying something.
Right. And I've heard this from other business owners and experts that there's a feature of a product, there's a benefit of a product, but until you get to the core value of why people are buying what you're selling, it's going to be very difficult to convince somebody to make those purchase decisions. So Lululemon has really developed a strong brand in that sense. Kit Kat has done the same thing. McDonald's has done the same thing. So people really understand the values behind these companies, and that's why I guess they give them a shot, especially when they come to international markets.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, it's another example I could kind of rattle off if you're up for it is BMW and Mini Cooper. BMW in a given year sells around just under 800,000 BMW and Mini, etc. in China. They sell perhaps less than half of that in the United States.
Wow.
So you have international markets, right,
Yeah.
where the potential to grow is staggering. I think that's a great opportunity for Canadian businesses and, to work with institutions such as yourselves to kind of help them scale and grow internationally.
Right. So you've seen a lot then, and this is another good example with BMW and Mini Cooper. Was there a mistake that they made at all, or do you think that was a good strategy? Do you see companies around the world making any common mistakes? What are some things that are red flags that people should consider if they are exploring international markets?
Great question. I think we discussed the example of Kellogg's giving people kind of what what they want, what they're habituated to get. Also, another thing I could talk about is because it's a business, it's kind of managing expectations. Because you're perhaps a runaway success in the market you're in, you kind of manage your expectations as to when you enter an international market. You're not going to have people perhaps lining out outside your store day one, and it's going to be a sellout, right? You need to kind of make those investments in those markets. Need to give it time, and you got to see where your audiences are, and use that kind of media to kind of attract them and make them go there. I've seen TikTok being a staggering hit.
Right.
My daughter comes to me the other day. I have a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old. And my 12-year-old comes to me saying, Dad, I want to get chicken wings from a place called Wingstop.
Yep.
And I went and stood. It took me an hour and a half to get some wings. But it was great wings. Loved it, right? But because she saw something on TikTok. My better half, she recently got a Dyson Airwrap, again, because of TikTok. So it's what audiences are consuming. They will get influenced by it. So you just got to look at where your audiences are, what makes them tick, what kind of media they're consuming, and work with that media to kind of get your message out there.
I think if you have a strong brand, the PR can be really strong too.
Mm-hmm.
I know another good example of Crumble Cookie, which was, I believe, in the U.S., the world's best cookie is what they called it. And then when they came here and they opened the location, the lineup was through the roof. It was so large that it was actually getting a lot of PR publicity. And when people actually went into Crumble Cookie, they said, well, it was okay. It wasn't that great, right? I mean, the conception of, same thing with Target, right? You have Target coming and, it's such a big store. But sometimes going internationally, some of those mistakes is you don't really understand the local consumers, right? And we have to sometimes sit back and say, are we offering the same exact thing we're offering in our home market? And is that what people are craving in this new market, right?
100%. Yeah, it's sometimes that PR could work well for you.
Yeah.
And case in point, this summer I was in Paris. I finally got to see the Louvre.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I loved my entire experience, except for what? Seeing the Mona Lisa.
Oh, man.
Because my expectations were sky high, and suddenly I'm like, is that it? And my friends in France perhaps may hate me, and those others that perhaps follow, but I don't know. I just felt that, and if you just study that as a business case, you're like, that's fabulous. The world is literally talking about that, that painting that is so tiny and small, but just look at what Jaguar has done with their recent logo change.
Yeah.
Very controversial, would you say?
Yeah.
Guess what? People are talking about it. People are talking about that brand like, never before. Now, you may hate it, but when those cars hit the streets, let's see.
Yeah, people will be talking about it, and that's what you want to do, right? Because then that's going to attract more eyes to particular, in this case, Jaguar, the product itself, which is the car, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So I know a couple of weeks back you did a session for us on how to build your brand internationally. So one of the things you did talk about was social media, and how you can use metrics in social media to target your audiences. How can social media be leveraged differently in international markets to build that brand awareness?
I think the rules pretty much stay the same.
Okay.
Right? And it's social media offers you the ability to engage with audiences as opposed to just traditional media, which is just gives you a lot of reach.
Right.
Social media will help you. It's a two-way conversation almost.
Correct.
Right? And that's what makes it kind of fascinating. There are ways and means to engage with on social media. It's mainly a lot of guidelines, but you want to kind of talk to them in the language that people are kind of accustomed to. You want to talk to them in a way where don't shy away from infusing humor if your brand is that's your brand voice. You don't have to be serious all the time. People's attention spans are in seconds. It's in single digits these days. So you want to make sure that if you're engaging with them, you're offering something of value. It's not about sell. People know a sales spiel when they see it. Right. It is about giving them value. It's about giving them, perhaps if you're a beauty product, it's not about just hey, this is the best beauty product. You got to buy it. It's all about tips and tricks of beauty. What you can, your morning skincare routine, etc., etc. It's about giving them a creative message. And if you're putting your brand out there, I'd again look at perhaps getting humor in there as well, because people live busy lives, right? There are a lot of frustrations. There are a lot of I have a lot packed in a day. If you give someone a reason to kind of chuckle, and just kind of remember you,
Right.
it resonates, right?
Yeah. That's why it's called social media, not sales media.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
With that said, social media is obviously an awesome opportunity for a lot of small business owners and people looking to build international brands. But you also have to look at the forefront of, are we talking to our customers? Are we educating them? Or are we selling to them, right? Education should be 80% of the work, and then 20% should be, hey, we have this promotion, you can grab it. But majority of your content should be educational.
Right.
So Kunal, we're almost up on time. I just want to ask you one last question. ROI. That's a big question, return on investment. How long does it typically take a brand that wants to explore an international market to get an ROI? Do you have an idea on that, or have you experienced any companies that have gone through this process, and what was, I guess, their result?
Good question, Prince. It depends on what kind of presence they have in the international market.
Okay.
As I told you, for example, buying these glasses, it was nothing, because they've literally taken money from me first when I'm paid by my card, and then they've dispatched these glasses.
Right.
So on one end of the spectrum, it is, it's nothing to it. On the other end, it depends on the kind of business, depends on the product, depends on what you're really going there to sell. It could range from a couple of years to to 10 odd years as well, depending on the kind of business you're setting up. I would ask brands to look at it from look at certain numbers before you enter an international market, right? So you depending on your product, understand what your target market really is, the scale, the size. Is your target market growing? Is it not growing? Understanding their spending power, right? And if they can afford to buy your product, absolutely, that should be a market of interest. And do what you call a pestle analysis as well, where you're understanding political, environmental, legal, economic, social factors, and then look to explore. Hey, and there are a variety of different frameworks one can learn in business. There's something called Porter's 5 Forces as well, to understand what competition is all about. So you can use all of these things to really to dig in, and that's what we do as a business as well, to kind of dig in and understand, should you go there, and if you should go there, have a business plan in mind, because it's not just, okay, we'll think of it on a fly. Have a business plan in mind. You can have projections, which most likely will change, but have that particular kind of number, because that investment could be made in a variety of different markets, right?
Right. So set yourself up for success as best as you can by doing the thorough research. And I guess, in short, your ROI will depend on various factors based on the market, the product, the size, everything that you're really doing. So there's no definitive number, but you just have to be ready to take on the risk.
You have to be ready to.
Amazing. Well, Kunal, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time, the expert from Canready. And if you have a business and you're looking to accelerate, or even are interested in entrepreneurship, come see us at 41 George Street South in the Brampton Entrepreneur Centre. We offer free business consultations and in-person seminars for any entrepreneurs looking to up their game. And visit us at www.brampton.ca/BEC and stay tuned for the next episode. And Kunal, thank you again for your time. Canready is a fantastic organization for anyone looking to explore international markets, and we appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Prince. I appreciate you having me over. I enjoyed this thoroughly. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.